You don't look like it. Digging a little deeper into the dilemma, I found that he loved hanging around with the guys. But the sport, he could care less about. So we gave him this speech about commitment, finishing what you start, never quitting, and he finished the soccer season. Now there was a little spitfire on the team by the name of Kyle, and Kyle had Down syndrome. But he always played with such heart, such enthusiasm. At one particular game, Shea was playing defense, which he preferred because he only had to cover about half the field. And out of the corner of my eye, Shea came blazing down the sideline with a zeal that I had never seen before. The problem was, he wasn't running after the ball. But he blew right past me, and he came upon this dark-haired kid on the other team. And without hesitation or provocation, Shea put two hands on the kid and shoved him to the ground. Now, the referee runs over to Shea and puts a yellow card in his face. Shea just turned and walked back to his defensive position. Now, the crowd was stunned. They were stunned by both Shea's random act of violence and his sudden burst of speed. And now, me, the father, was appalled at the blatant act of coonery. Yet, the ex-hockey player in me was thrilled by the sudden passion for the game that drove me to such acts weekly when I was a boy. So I pulled my son aside to give him the talking to my wife told me to do. And I simply asked, Shea, what was that? And he looked at me without batting an eye and he said, Daddy, he made fun of Kyle. You see, simply winning a game never motivated Shea. But doing the right thing won't make him shove you to the ground. At age 6, he heard about a meeting at the local elementary school about the local Cub Scout Pack 105. He made us postpone a trip, a vacation, a planned vacation by one full day, so we could go to this meeting. And I was like, scouting? Really? You see, I'm from New Jersey, where carrying around a knife and calling yourself a tiger or a wolf takes on a totally different image than helping old ladies across the street. So scouting was out of my stratosphere. This led to 6 years of tiger growls, Uchi bonfires, pinewood derbies, popcorn sales, and sweat sock snowball fights. All of this, Shea just ate it up. We once asked him what he wanted to get out of all of this, and he said he wanted to be an Eagle Scout. With the prospect of another 8 years of scouting in our heads, we asked, why? And without missing a beat, our 9-year-old looked up at us and said, it'll look good on a resume. It was at that point that I realized that we had long left the path that I had blazed. He was holding the compass, and we were following him through the deep, uncharted jungle of his journey. When it came to cross over to Boy Scouts, Shea took his visits to troops very, very seriously. He camped out with one troop that meets right near our house. But he came home and he told Cynthia he wasn't happy with the language that the boys were using. By far, the farthest and most inconvenient troop for our family was Troop 417. But he was required to visit 3. I overheard him having a conversation with his Wicklow leader, Tony Andrews. And Tony asked Shea if he had picked a troop, and Shea said, I really like Troop 417, but it would be way too hard for my parents to have to drive me back and forth to meetings and activities, so I guess I'll be going to a closer troop. There are milestones in every child's life. They cut a tooth, their first steps, they learn how to ride a bike. But when you hear a 12-year-old thinking about anybody other than themselves, you hear them becoming a man. So Cynthia and I looked at each other and simultaneously said, whatever it takes, we got to get that kid to Troop 417. Through scouting, and particularly through Troop 417, we have had so many new adventures, experiences. We have come across the most wonderful men and women, spectacular leaders and mentors, and the finest group of young people ever assembled for any one purpose. They have been a tremendous influence on both of my sons and a godsend to my family. Once Shay and I were driving to a typical Tuesday night scout meeting here at St. Anne's. And those trips are usually filled with the two of us listening to NPR News and discussing the issues that usually put his brother into a deep slumber, yet always gets Shay going. He told me that he and Chase were discussing that Shay was Mommy's favorite and that Chase was mine. I inquired how they reached this conclusion. And Shay said, well, Mommy and I enjoy researching our genealogy, watching movies together, planning our 4-H projects, and working with the weekend food program. And Chase, you like talking sports. You film his soccer games, and you guys watch the Eagles together over at Johnny Houston's. Now, these were undeniable facts. Chase is definitely the athletic side of me, who loves sports, and he's my Philadelphia Eagle buddy. He has adeptly filled a void on NFL Sundays since distance has prevented me from spending that time with my father and my brother. But I had to remind Shay of other undeniable facts. The things that I do with Chase, I would do on my own. I cherish that Chase does them with me, and his presence makes them so much sweeter, but I would do them on my own. The things I do with Shay, lugging a 35-pound backpack 15 miles, scanning my surroundings for poison ivy just so I can relieve myself, and sleeping in the sub-freezing cold, hard ground with just a thin sheet of nylon protecting me from rain and wildlife. These things, my son, I would only do if I was with you. See, I'm from New Jersey. Unless the auto plant has shut down or there are Springsteen tickets involved, we don't camp. But I'm following you down your path, and you have the compass. So Shay rose through the scouting ranks through Scout and Tenderfoot, throwing himself full bore into community service projects like Scouting Skills. He went through second class, first class, finding his voice in public speaking through speeches and hosting courts of honor. Star and Life, discovering his passion for leadership through elections and holding positions. See, Shay became a Life Scout in January of 2017. And that Valentine's Day, his mother received a diagnosis of breast cancer. See, sometimes there are seismic shifts that occur in the very core of your world. They shake the floor, they knock things off the wall, and they make the very ground you stand on uneasy and unsettled. They change your focus, your priorities, and your perspective. And along Shay's path from Life to Eagle, he earned 35 merit badges. He put numerous hours of community service. He had 100 plus hours visiting fairs and festivals and organizations with his outreach program. He logged a good 35 plus hours working and building on his fishing line recycling receptacles across the upper Gulf Coast. Put in another 25 plus hours just maintaining them. And then countless hours preparing his paperwork that was required for his project binder. See, during the same period, he also accompanied his mother on preoperative visits, multiple preoperative visits, 3 surgeries, and still more post-op visits at the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa. He traveled with her daily and stood by her side through 40 radiation treatments in Pensacola. These hours, I'm sure, weren't discussed at Shay's Eagle Board of Review. nor were they logged in his project binder. See, when the ground was shifting under his very feet, like a true eagle, he took flight, soared. See, Shay has always been very comfortable in his own skin, happy to be who he is, and even happier to give you the room to be who you are. If you ask him to empty his pockets right now, odds are, in one you'll find a flint and steel, just in case we all get chilly, a Swiss Army knife, just in case we got to open a can of beans, and possibly a scribbled piece of notepaper that meticulously states where everyone in the troop stands in the country's game. But in the other pocket, you'll find a copy of the United States Constitution and the King James Bible. That's what makes Shay 20% cooler. And I'd have to say that the purest joy of parenting is that moment, the moment you realize that you're riding shotgun on their journey, and that the view from the passenger seat is spectacular. That wonderful miracles you'll discover on that magical trip, and oh, what places you'll go. Now I'm standing here, and I'm marveling at his achievements. I'm in all of his intellect, and overwhelmed by his big heart and tremendous sense of fairness. Yes, pride is not the word I'm looking for. There is so much more inside me now. Because someday, you'll blow us all away. Live long and prosper, my son, and we will all be better for it. Adventure is out there. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Cynthia and myself, it is our great honor to introduce to you Chase's favorite brother, and his mama's pride and joy, and Troop 417's newest Eagle Scout, Shay Dixon.